Our 2006 Honda CBR 1000RR just refuses to start on its own fuel. Today, we're gonna try to figure out why.
Quick recap, since it's been a couple weeks, I took a gamble on this 06 CBR 1000RR that was claimed to be in good running condition, and it definitely was not. As I started digging into it, I found coolant in the oil, a lot of rust in the gas tank and in the engine.
Whoa. Wow.
But luckily the bike actually did run, just not on its own fuel, and the head gasket test checked out just fine. The last discovery we made was a seized fuel pump, so I ordered the parts last video and waited for them to arrive today. So today, my job is to figure out why this bike isn't running on its own fuel. First step is obviously to replace the seized fuel pump. I was quoted $580 plus tax for an OEM fuel pump assembly from Honda, so I went ahead and bought a $50 rebuild kit from eBay instead. As you can see here, the old pump was rusted solid, and Ryan suspects the previous owner that laid the bike down and was trying to repair it actually tried starting the bike with a bunch of water in the tank, which would explain all the rust in the tank, the fuel pump, and the engine.
All right, before I install everything, I'm just gonna verify it actually works. This is the moment of truth right here. See if it'll give me some fuel. All right, ready boys? Nothing, what the freak? What? Well, why does it not surprise me? I didn't even notice this fuel tank. Somebody had cut it or something, or it broke, and they just freaking epoxy JB welded this thing back in. So this tank was very cheap. Like, he got the crappiest one he could possibly find off of eBay trying to fix this thing. But hey, if it works, I guess. It's just really sketchy.
When the bike was laid down, it slid into a cattle fence through the windshield, which also ripped off the gas tank basically. So it seems the previous owner bought a cheap and damaged one off eBay to refurbish himself to save some money. So the fuel pump still wouldn't prime, but I knew I rebuilt it correctly, so I moved on to other smaller things to fix in the meantime, so we could sort any mechanical issues without fighting other broken parts at the same time. A lot of the handlebar hardware was damaged, so I had to swap almost all of that out. And the best part about this build is how insanely cheap parts are for it. Coming from the McLaren project, it feels like I'm almost cheating because it's so cheap. Headlights, $10. Clutch reservoir, $10. Levers, $12. This entire bike project will basically be less than buying one headlight for the McLaren. Absolutely insane. And I think my perspective of prices going forward will be forever skewed after the McLaren build. To hopefully fix the mixing oil and coolant problem, I suspected the oil cooler based on all the forums I was reading. Apparently those fail sometimes on these bikes, and the head gasket checked out, so I thought the only thing that it could be was the oil cooler. Anyway, so I went ahead and bought a known working condition used one on eBay for $15. I have yet to see if oil and coolant continues to mix since I haven't actually run the bike much yet, but let's hope that solved it.
And today's video has been sponsored by Anker. This is the Solix C1000 portable power bank for the everyday man. So let's unbox this thing. It's made with lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is the best for this application, and you can recharge it in under an hour. Let's get this thing out of the box, see what we're looking at. Here she is.
This is the Anker Solix C1000. It's a 1056 watt-hour portable power bank with obvious uses including camping, easily accessible power around the house and garage, travel, and all kinds of other things. You really don't know what you're missing out on until you have one. It's expandable up to 2 kilowatt hours and also can be charged with solar.
Real quick rundown of the Anker. It's got a light that you might use, various USB, USB-C port. You have a car socket right here, 6 outlets in case you need to power at least 6 things at once. Here's the input for the charging cable and an expansion battery port. Here's a solar charger for it as well, and a couple handles in case you want to carry it around somewhere. Perfect size for just throwing it in a car or truck and taking somewhere. Or it's portable enough to just throw in the garage and take it out, work on cars and whatever you got to do.
Via the Smart app, you can control it and monitor it at any time. This unit is also protected by a 5-year warranty and has an estimated 10-year lifespan.
The application for me with this thing would be here in the garage. Easy. Let's just see if it'll power both at once. Might as well, right? Wow. Not bad for this size power bank. That's crazy. Well done, Anker. Well done. This is a great thing to just throw in a car or truck if you need to go somewhere and have power. So that's a C1000. There's a link below if you guys want to check more into it. Thank you, Anker, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. we found ourselves a Scorpio safety system that was aftermarket installed on the bike. So chances are the previous owner had like a remote that he'd actually unlock the bike first, and then the key would turn the ignition on and the fuel pump would prime. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this aftermarket Scorpio safety security device. Hopefully when I put the wiring back to stock, hopefully the fuel pump will prime and this bike should run as it was intended to. So yeah, that's where we're at today. Let's just get straight to work.
Fuel pump problem is one of electronics and wiring. So I jump onto stripping the sketchy wiring the previous owner did and tidying up things a bit as far as wiring and electronics, and kind of just removing all of the sketchy modifications the previous owner did.
Got ourselves a little house connector tie. That's nice. Yep, there's a wire. This is the wire for the right side turn signal that was just ripped off. So obviously some wiring got tugged here, and there is an empty connector right here, and there's just like clipped wires everywhere. Whoever was installing this stuff just clipped and didn't care. Here's the turn signal wire that was just ripped out. Whoever installed all this stuff used these things because either that's all they had on hand or they didn't know how to solder. My guess would be they didn't know how to solder. It's basically how I was when I had my first bike, and I just learned all this stuff as I went. I wouldn't have replaced this, but you guys can see at the taillight, there's actually an LED out in the taillight. So luckily these are super cheap. I got the same exact one for like 25 bucks. We're gonna just swap it out real quick. Left side turn signal works, but the right side does not. So gotta rewire it anyway. Just slap a new one in here. Have one extra LED. Wow. Okay, check this out. So this brake light and tail light, so this tail light kit actually came with pinned ends. So you just swap them out with the OEM connector. Whoever wired in that last tail light had no idea what they were doing. The ground wires and everything are already connected here, but they cut the actual ground wire to splice into the ground wire. Wow. Not sketchy at all. So if I solder these ground wires back together, it should fix it. I can touch these two ends together, and if it fixes it, then wow, incredible. Look at that. They literally just cut the ground wire so they could splice into the exact same ground wire. Incredible work, everybody. So let's see if that turn signal will work. Look at that. So let's just re-solder this ground wire back together. Took all of 1 minute to do. Let's get the other turn signal wired in, and I think we're all good. This is gonna be a very satisfying thing to do right here. I'm gonna take this entire run of pretty janky wiring and replace it all with one nice and clean wire right in there. That's what was confusing me. It works great now. They had actually wired the tail light into the wrong connector. That's why they were trying to overcomplicate it, because their brains just could not compute why this wasn't working for the turn signal. Because this is the wrong connector, bro. It's literally sitting right here. I have no idea. I mean, they did tap into the correct power wire for the, but then they wired the turn signal straight into the wrong one. That is hilarious. And they ran it like this too. Like, it's not like it was just done. Wow. Look just how much cleaner this wiring looks now. I've just got to put some zip ties on it and we're all set. I guess last thing I'll do is just desolder and then resolder this connector out of here. Oh wow, I can see why they electrical taped this wire. It's completely broken, dog. Why you not just fix that? All right, let's see how she works. Left, or right, left. Oh, there we go. One tail light, and lots of clean wiring. The underglow works fine. His little crimp connection just pulled right out, and I'm touching the end of the wire that had just broken off of his little crimp connection to the ground, on the battery and it works just fine. Just gonna leave it in. That is hilarious. Let's take these stupid HIDs out and then we'll see what happens. Gotta love the sport bike bros that just want as much street cred as possible with all their cool modifications at the expense of the bike actually running correctly. There's a couple of just completely loose wires. What the frick? Plus, taking the HIDs out will just clean up a lot of the wiring. And I already bought LEDs for it anyway, so no reason not to. I'm moving along to getting the exhaust adjusted right now. If you look at it from the very back, the exhaust is crooked. Whoever installed this exhaust tightened it up here before they actually bolted it on here. So the angle that they clamped the pipe on was wrong. So yeah, and they were probably just like, F it, it's still gonna sound good, right? Wow, that was the easiest thing I've ever done. Made a huge difference for the look of the bike. Yeah, I think that's it. Cool.
I decided to move on to finishing the bike 100% besides the fuel problem. Sorting out wiring and electrical issues is pretty low on my favorite things to do list, so I just wanted to finish the other things first and let my mind work on the wiring problem in that time. So once I got to it, I could focus 100% of my attention on it. The chain on this bike looked like it was going to snap at any moment and like it hadn't been lubricated for the life of the bike. So I bought a full chain and sprocket kit to slap on there in the meantime.
Thank you.
The wheels I actually had thought were a sketchy spray paint job from the previous owner, but after a thorough wash and degreasing, they actually got their OEM shine back a little bit. And I went ahead and threw a graphics kit on them for that extra razzle dazzle.
Wow. Definitely struggled a little bit getting both these sprockets and the new chain installed. I've probably, on a street bike, I've probably only changed front sprocket, rear sprocket, and chain maybe once, and then maybe a couple dirt bikes way back in the day. Yeah, so it feels like my first time doing it again, even though I've done one or two in the past. So I've just been figuring it out as I go. Now that the chain is actually connected, I think that'll make a big difference in just trying to freaking straighten the sprockets and everything. All right, let's see if this is any easier than the previous attempt. Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna clean myself up, but that's pretty much it. Just gotta tighten it down now and get the marks straight.
That's the same relay that was in it, so I'm thinking that
It just isn't getting ground.
it just isn't getting ground. I can poke around on that for a little bit, see if I can't figure it out. It could just be right here in this area. And then if not, and it proves to be more trouble than it's worth, then we'll just run a new ground from here, straight to there. Not out of remedy it.
Say we just crank it up, see what happens. Yeah, the oil is just draining. I guess. Cut it off again, it's empty again. Really? Yeah. I'll crank it up next time, you can watch it if you want.
You got the brakes working and all that stuff working already too?
The brakes should work fine, yeah, they've got good pressure on them. So.
Oh, you're almost ready to ride it.
Literally, once it actually runs, I'm gonna do my first actual ride on it and make sure everything's go. And the only thing that's a question mark still is the clutch. I went ahead and actually bought a service manual. This is probably something I should have started with. It was like 18 bucks or something for the full service manual for this thing. Literally pictures for everything you need to do on this, like step by step, anything you need to do. Okay, so it's a new day and I'm just gonna kind of recap what we've been finding on this bike. It is 100% ready to go right now, besides it not getting fuel because the fuel pump is not turning on. All the relays we've already checked, they all check out fine. The fuel pump relay is just not sending signal to the fuel pump. The relay works fine, but for some reason that's the only system that's not operating correctly right now. And this being an 06 CBR, you'd think there'd be a video on pretty much every problem that an owner has encountered in the past, but this problem I guess is too specific and I'm not finding any content online about this specific problem. It's a fuel pump not priming situation, but normally it's a fuse or it's a relay that went out or the bank angle sensor is not in the right position or something simple, but all the systems check out. It's just not sending signal to the fuel pump when you turn the bike on, and it seems like all the fuses and relays and stuff are good. Somebody cross-threaded the heck out of these things. Boy, howdy. All right, all the fuses are good. Everything looks fine. I'm gonna do something the service manual calls for right now. In the event of something wrong with the bike, it actually has error codes that it will give you. And if it's a no start situation and the bike can't physically check itself while it's running, it says to crank the bike for 10 seconds and then it should blink error code fault a certain number of times, and then you count the number of blinks that the light does, and then there's a chart for all the diagnostics. So I'm just gonna give it a shot. I did ground the fuel pump already, so it's probably gonna fire up for a couple seconds, but then it'll go back to not starting. And we'll see how many blinks the computer gives us. Hopefully that's the case. I'm really hoping this actually works and tells me exactly what's wrong and I just fix that instead of having to keep guessing on this thing. So, all right, let's give it a shot. I don't want you to run, bike. Stop. Stop starting, dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it should be blinking a light. It's not blinking anything. Nothing. Dang it, dude. Freaking seriously. Gotta just go back to like trial and error. This just in, I didn't fix it yet, but that's where we're gonna end this video. I think I've narrowed it down to a loose or a broken wire somewhere. Checked all the fuses, I checked all the relays. I checked that the computer was getting power, verified the bank angle sensor is working and upright. So as far as I can tell, there is a fuel wire that seems to not be connected somewhere. Besides fixing the fuel pump problem, which we're zeroing in on, we pretty much knocked out everything on this bike besides it actually running. And obviously putting on the body panels that I got. So hopefully in the next video, we knock this fuel pump problem out pretty quick, and then we just put the whole bike back together and we actually ride this thing. And if that's the case, the next video is gonna be the full build in one video, and we'll break down price, everything, and we'll just have a great time as usual. Make sure to smash that like button before you guys head out. I'll catch you next time.